Okay, hello everybody. So this week for English, you're going to be writing up your information text in BEST. And I've got some pictures on these slides of what your final piece is going to potentially look like. I say potentially, or may look slightly different, which is obviously fine. I would suggest that you take the next 3 days, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Some of you may finish it a little bit before then, a little bit after then. But if I give you sort of approximately 3 days, then it gives you enough time to just take your time with it and not rush it all. So it looks really nice. So what we're going to start off with today is we're going to do a little bit of a sort of a word and vocabulary activity first before we get started. So you need to make sure that you have got a piece of paper in front of you with a pencil or a pen. You might want to write in the back of your home learning book. Doesn't really matter what, just something. So if you need to go and grab that, I would suggest you very quickly pause now, and then you can come back in a moment. So hopefully you might have paused, you might not have paused. You should all have a piece of paper in front of you now. So first thing I'm going to ask you to do, if I scroll down, so vocabulary activity. So you're going to have 1 minute to write as many synonyms for the word big. So remember, a synonym, it's different words that mean the same thing. So for example, let's just say I was doing synonyms for happy. I might say cheerful, overjoyed, and things like that. So I suggest that you pause, set a little timer somewhere on a device, on your watch, your clock, something. 1 minute, write as many synonyms for the word big as you can. Pause now. Okay, hopefully it's been a minute, might be more than a minute. You should have written as many words for big as you can possibly think of in a minute. You should have probably quite a long list. So what we're going to do now, thinking about all these synonyms for the word big that we have just written down. So here I've got a few here, as you can see. I wrote large, giant, mammoth, enormous, immense. I've highlighted immense as well. Why might I, what, I can't speak. Why do you think I highlighted immense? Because it was a previous word of the day. Should have been your answer then. So here's just a few that I wrote down. Oh, there's 3 more there. Huge, monumental, and colossal. We love that word colossal. We use that a lot. Not always correctly though, which will lead me on to my next point. So what you're going to do with all of these words that you've just come up with, you might have some of the same ones as me. You've probably got some better ones as well. Is you're going to use your words for big now to fill in this sentence below. And I want you to see if you notice anything. So for example, I'm just going to get rid of this now, I think. So I have a/an. I've done this because obviously depends what your word is, depends if you say an or a. So remember, an we use when it's a vowel sound. You wouldn't say an table or an pencil, but you would say a pencil or a table. Just be careful. So an apple, an elephant. So I have a or an blank sister. So this is where your synonyms for big are going to go. So just start filling them in a little bit. You don't have to write it down. You can sort of say it out loud. So for example, I would say, so I'll start off with big anyway. So I have a big sister. I have a large sister. I have a giant sister. I have a mammoth sister. I have an enormous sister. I have an immense sister. I have a huge sister. I have a monumental sister. I have a colossal sister. So obviously you're going to have some different ones to me. What are you thinking right now? Do all those words make sense? Are there any issues you've come across? So some of them, you know, they would work depending on what you're writing about. So when we say it depends what you're writing about, that is called the context. So, you know, if you were describing the age of your sister, so if I was to say I have a big sister, then I might be saying that I have an older sister. If I was saying that I have either an immense sister, I might just be describing that she's like she's an amazing person, potentially. And again, you're going to have some slightly different ones as well. Don't know the last time you might be describing your sister as being a colossal sister, potentially. I doubt anyone's sister is going to be very happy if you've started calling them a mammoth either, probably. Again, it depends what you're talking about, though. If you say I have a giant sister, it might just mean they're really, really tall, maybe. But again, it all depends on what you are writing. It depends on the context of what you are writing. So my little reminder down the bottom here, remember, be careful when choosing synonyms in your own writing and to check if it makes sense. Does it actually work? So it's all well and good in your writing to whip out a thesaurus and start finding lots of fancy words, but then you sometimes then need to go back and check in a dictionary to actually see what that specific synonym actually means, because it won't always work. And then sometimes we end up with pieces of writing with lots of really complicated vocabulary that sounds amazing, but actually doesn't make an awful lot of sense. Okay, so that's the first little thing to be thinking about today. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you some examples of, and we saw these on Friday Zoom if you were in Friday morning Zoom. These are some examples now of what your writing for this week might look like. And again, all this is saved on the website for you to look at. And also, ignore that they are Victorian. I know they're Victorian. These are from some of mine and Mr. Cooper's lovely Year Sixes last year. So we've got this one here. They've got their lovely title across the top. They've even been a bit fancy with their shading here. And you can see they've got different paragraphs here. So obviously, when we did this, it was slightly different to our one about how the planet is being affected. So we got the little introduction paragraph about what this information text is going to be about. We've then got the different sections. So for example, here they did coal mines, street sellers, factories and chimney sweeps. For your ones, you're going to have something like pollution, renewable energy, what else? Oh God, everything's fallen out my head. Recycling, for example. So you're going to have your different paragraphs. Probably a bit smaller than these, as you've got more paragraphs to try and fit in. This is one very, very nice example. Just think it looks nice with the different colour backgrounds, just makes it sort of like stand out a little bit more. And obviously we printed these pictures in class for the children to use. Here's another one. So you can see that they chopped their page into quarters here, which was quite nice. And they filled their gaps with pictures. But this is quite a nice little setup as well, chopping it into quarters. You might decide to have your issues on one half with a little introduction. Then you might have your solutions on the other half of the page with a few little cheeky fun facts down the side, because we love a fun fact. You've got this one here. So this one is very writing based, that this child did. So you can see they've still set it out with their like headings here. As you can see, they tried to the little overlap in the middle for this one. Quite black and white, this one. Also fine if you don't want to draw pictures or you can't print any. And this is the last one here. I remember this one. It's one of the girls in my class, this was. So again, you can see her little sections here spread out. And this is quite nice. Her little fun facts, you can see she did them in little like purple, sort of like bubbles, little clouds, which again is nice. So these are just some examples of what your work might look like this week. So what I've got on this one, what I've done is I have written an example paragraph just to give you the idea of what yours might sound like. And if you would like to magpie any of my ideas, absolutely fine. Just like in class, when we put an example on the board, we encourage you to use ideas from that. Especially sometimes the starting sentence, when you really don't know where to start, that's often really, really helpful. The introduction as well, back from the planning sheet from last week, you might want to pinch that potentially. I'll save that somewhere on the Home Learning Hub. So I'll make a note of that. So you can always copy my introduction from last week. Because again, introductions, they're always hard to get started on. So this is my example paragraph for pollution. So one of my issues, so I decided to do pollution for mine. And whilst I'm reading this to you and you're listening, but also reading along at the same time, have a little think. What would Mr. Cooper and Miss Palmer like about this example? So think when we're in class and we have a little paragraph and then we go through afterwards and we pick out bits that we like. What sentences have I used? What punctuation have I used? Any certain types of words? So this is my pollution paragraph. Did you know that, I should say that's already an error. And I've already saved my document. So this is why we read things back, everybody, because you spot errors. That typo will be on the final one. I'll have to go and change that. Did you know that there are many different types of pollution? Some include the following: air, water, noise, plastic, and thermal. The largest air pollutant is road transport, such as cars, vans, lorries, or motorbikes. A recent traffic survey in Purton, Wiltshire, witnessed 50 vehicles drive through the village in the space of 15 minutes. The most shocking fact of all was that only one bicycle was seen. That shouldn't be a question mark. This amount of cars driving through a small country village is having a dramatic and devastating effect on the environment. So this might be an opportunity to pause at this point. What would we be asking you to put your hand up about in class? What bits of punctuation have been used, words, sentence types? And again, this is another example of you always need to read your work back out loud because we just spotted 2 errors there. So if you want to pause now and have a little think. So hopefully you've had a chance to have a little think and a little look. So this, again, you're going to have a slightly different version of this because I had my 2 errors on mine. So I'm deleting as I go because we edit as we go in our writing. So everything that's in yellow here are things that we would have talked about together. So starting off, we've got some words of the day. So we've got pollution, pollutant, obviously a different version of that. So to pollute is our root word. Environment as well. That is not only one of our word of the days, that is also a year 5-6 spelling word that you have to know how to spell by the end of year 6. So we have got, as you can see, to start off with over here, after the word pollution, we've got a question mark, because this is an example of a rhetorical question. We've then got a little colon here. Now this is a colon for a list. And you can see I've separated my list with commas. And obviously that's very important. And there, we don't need a comma. We use an and. And obviously and is another type, it's a type of conjunction. I'm pollutant because of my word of the day. Got some brackets here, a little bit of extra information here, such as cars, vans, lorries, or motorbikes. I could as well at this point, which you're probably saying, why have I not highlighted that? We've also got some commas in a list again here, and my conjunction or. So and or are 2 coordinating conjunctions. I've then got another example of brackets here for Wiltshire, just giving a bit of extra information about where specifically Purton is. And this is a real easy way of just chucking in brackets. by doing something like this. I've got most highlighted here. Type of word type is most. So must, should, could, most, things like that. Modal verbs. And then somebody, I don't know, just looking here, we've got a little dramatic and devastating. They're two nice examples of noun phrases. There we go. I had to think then. Also alliteration. If anyone else had maybe pointed that out a little bit. So this is an example of a paragraph, a few different bits of sentences and punctuation in there. And if you wish to use any of the ideas from this paragraph, feel free, or maybe even the structure of this paragraph for when you do any paragraphs later in the week.